Hey, that's pretty good. There's two more of you out there that need to join. Okay. All right. So first thing I'm going to show you is a video. All right. This is I've shown some other videos from this site. Okay. They use the same color scheme all the time. So let me go ahead and
What's up, everyone? Welcome to this lesson where we're going to explore the different triangle congruence theorems. So let's start out by asking the question, what does congruence even mean? We like to think of it as this equal sign with the squiggly line over it, but let's just take a few moments to really conceptualize what congruence means, especially in terms of figures. So let's look at a running shoe. If I can somehow duplicate this running shoe and make an exact replica, I would say that these two shoes are congruent because they are exactly the same size and shape. Now, even if I change the color of one of the shoes or I rotate it around a certain number of degrees, it's still congruent to the original sneaker because it's the same size and shape. And we want to extend this kind of thinking now to comparing triangles to see whether or not they are congruent. If their corresponding sides and angles have the same measure, then we can say that the triangles are congruent. And this applies even when the figures don't have the same orientation, and visually it's not so easy to tell whether or not these triangles are congruent, and this is where our theorems are going to come into play. So the goal of this lesson is to help you to understand why the theorems that we use prove congruence and how to know which theorem to use in a particular situation. So here are the 5 triangle theorems with their abbreviations. We have side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side, and hypotenuse leg. So now we're ready to go ahead and explore each theorem individually. Now the side, side, side triangle congruence theorem states that if in two triangles we have 3 pairs of corresponding sides that are congruent to each other, that means that they have the same length, then that's enough information to say that the triangles are congruent to each other. Which again just means that both triangles are exactly the same size and shape. So in this instance, we can use the side, side, side theorem to conclude that the triangles are congruent and that their corresponding sides and corresponding angles have the same measure. And remember that this relationship is still true even if the figures have different orientation. Our next theorem is side angle side. Now for this triangle congruence theorem, we start with a pair of corresponding congruent sides in 2 triangles. We also have a pair of corresponding angles that are congruent and another set of corresponding sides that are congruent. Now see that the letter A is in between the 2 S's in the name of the theorem? This corresponds with that congruent angle being in between the 2 congruent sides. Now, when this is the case, we have enough information to say that the 2 triangles are congruent by using the side angle side theorem. Our next congruence theorem is the angle side angle theorem. When we have 2 triangles with a pair of corresponding congruent angles, a pair of corresponding congruent sides, and another pair of corresponding congruent angles, we have enough information to prove congruence using angle side angle. Now it's important to notice that the congruent side is in between the 2 congruent angles. And now we can visualize that when this is the case, we have enough information to prove that the 2 triangles are congruent by angle side angle, which means that all of their corresponding sides and corresponding angles have the same measure. Now our next theorem is very similar to the one that we just looked at, which was angle side angle. This one is called angle angle side. Now when in 2 triangles, we have a pair of corresponding congruent angles, along with a second pair of corresponding congruent angles, as well as a pair of corresponding congruent sides. Now we don't want to confuse the last theorem, angle side angle, and this theorem of angle angle side, because both of them involve two congruent angles and one congruent side. The difference is that in angle-angle side, the congruent angles are consecutive. That is, that they are one after the other. And then the congruent side is next to them instead of in between them. Now, even though the order is different, we still have enough information here to prove that these two triangles are congruent, which means again that their corresponding sides and corresponding angles have the same measure. Now, our final congruence theorem is kind of a special case. It's called hypotenuse leg, and it applies to right triangles only. So let's start out with the key feature of any right triangle, and that is a right angle. Now we know that the hypotenuse of a right triangle is its longest side and is always opposite the right angle. So this congruence theorem says that if the hypotenuse in both right triangles are congruent, and if a leg, which is one of the other sides, are congruent, that is, they have a pair of corresponding congruent sides, then that is enough to say that the two triangles are congruent. Again, which means that the triangle's corresponding sides and corresponding angles have the same measure. So now that we've covered the 5 triangle congruence theorems, you may be asking, what about angle side side? Please don't be uptight. Okay, so now let's go ahead and explore why angle side side would not work as a triangle congruence theorem. So if we have a set of corresponding angles that are congruent and a set of corresponding sides that are congruent. Okay, so we have two sets. We have an angle followed by two consecutive congruent sides. The issue is with that second congruent side, since we don't know the angle in between the two congruent sides, we don't exactly know its position. So I could take that side and swing it over to a new location and still show that angle side side is still the case here, no matter how I choose to draw that second triangle. And I have the option of drawing it either way, since that's an isosceles triangle, so both of those sides are definitely congruent to each other. Now, if I draw it this way as an acute triangle, I see that I have angle side side. However, the base of each triangle clearly are not the same, and these triangles clearly are not congruent. Thank you so much, guys, for checking us out. Please subscribe to our YouTube.
Okay. So I hope that video helped. I thought it was a good video, especially on pretty much all the ones that do work versus the ones that don't work. You just have to remember that A, all 3 angles don't work, and ASS doesn't work. Okay. And so we have some slides left here. We're just kind of going to go through each of the 5 theorems that do work. Okay, theorems work. And so the first one that does work and produces 2 congruent triangles is side, 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 SSS. Okay, and so it means that we have 2 triangles with all 3 sides equal. For example, this triangle is congruent to this triangle. If 3 sides of one triangle are equal to 3 sides of another triangle, the triangles are congruent. So we can say that. There's a link for you here for mathisfun.com if you want to go to this website and see more information on that. Okay, but this is your first pair deck interactive slide. Okay, so there's 28 in the meeting. 2 of those are me, so there should be 26 of us here. We're up to 25 in our pair deck, which is really good numbers. There's just one person and I don't know who it is. All right, so you're going to go ahead and do this interactive slide. Are the 2 triangles congruent? You have 3 choices. Yes, no, or not enough information. Have 13 out of 24 responses. There's 25 of us signed into the Pear Deck, so I should be getting 25 responses. We're up to 17. Actually, there's 24 of us signed in. I apologize. We're up to 18 responses. About 30 more seconds, guys. Pick one. $19 out of 24. All right, let's see what we are thinking here. 18 of you said yes. Awesome. Okay, this is an example of two triangles where all three sides are the same. So this is side, side, side. The answer is, in fact, yes. Okay. Here's a second picture. It says, note the triangles are not drawn to scale. Are the two triangles congruent? Again, you have the same three options. Yes, no, not enough information. The triangles are not drawn to scale. The only information that you are given is that one side is 6 and one side is 4. Do we know if these triangles are congruent? If we want to say they're congruent, we need to have a theorem that says they're congruent. And we cannot just use the picture because they look like they're congruent. We are not given any information about the angles. The only information we are given is that two sides have the same length. About 30 more seconds. We have 16 responses. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Just respond. Okay, let's see what we came up with. Oh, we're all over. So 11 of us say yes, these are two congruent triangles. 2 of us say no. 8 of us are now saying there's not enough information. Well, let me ask you, is it possible that these could be two congruent triangles? What do you think? Is that possible that they are two congruent triangles? Yes, it is possible, Juliana, you're right. Okay. Now, is it possible that they are not congruent? Yes. Okay, so both options are possible in this case, which means that our correct answer is C. There is not enough information. We are only given the fact that we have two sides that are the same length, and we don't know anything else about the triangle. So it is possible they could be congruent. It is also possible they could not be congruent, so we can't say for sure yes or no. There's just not enough information. So C is your correct answer. Okay. This is your third one. Note that the triangles are not drawn to scale. Are these two triangles congruent? So if you look at what is given to us in the picture, one triangle has side lengths of 6, 8, and 10. The other triangle has side lengths of 4 and 5/10, 6, and 7 and 5/10. Are those two triangles congruent? We're up to 16 responses, 17 responses. Choose one. What do you think? Are they congruent? Remember, congruent means exactly the same size and shape. You need 6 more responses. 10 more seconds. 5 seconds. Pick one. No, they are not congruent. So no is the correct answer. Most of you figured that out. Two triangles that clearly are showing you that the side lengths are different lengths. They are not the same size. Now, those possibly could be similar triangles if the side lengths are in proportion to one another, and they could possibly be, but they are not congruent. It's asking us if they're congruent, and they are not. They're different sizes. Okay, so that is the first theorem we've covered so far. That was on side, side, side. And now your next theorem is side, angle, side. Okay, and so specifically you have to have a side, an angle, and a side. It has to go in that order. And if that's true about two triangles, like here in this example, we have a side length of 3 6/10, an angle of 49 degrees, and then a side of 7 1/10. And then over here is another triangle where we have in that same order 3 6/10, 49 degrees, and 7 1/10 as the side length. We can say they are congruent. That's enough information to say these two triangles have exactly the same size and the same shape. Your third one, angle, side, angle. It has to be in that order. So for example, these two triangles, we have the angle of 23 degrees, the side length of 8 9/10, and then an angle of 124 degrees. And another triangle where those three things are also true, okay, and it goes in that order. That is enough information for us to say that these two triangles are congruent. Okay. So this problem right here, this is choose an option. It says you'll need to do some calculation first. Okay, remember the three angles of any triangle add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so these are just some things to think about. We're given two pictures here. One of the triangles, we can see we have a side length of 3, and we also have the degrees of 63 degrees and 72 degrees, and the side length of 3 that connects those two angles. Over here, we have 63 degrees, side length of 3, and then 45 degrees up here. So right now, there's not a theorem that we can use just looking at this, but can we do some calculations since we know the three angles inside a triangle add up to 180 degrees to maybe use one of those theorems that we have? Short fuse, loud fight, like drugs, the undertow. Don't say you're done, your brain, your love. So again, you're going to choose either A, B, or C. I don't know, is it labeled as A, B, and C? No, it is not. You're going to choose either yes, no, or not enough information. Are the two triangles congruent? So we're up to 17, 18 responses. About 30 more seconds. Make sure you're responding to the slides. You're participating. Ooh, we only need 3 more responses. We're almost there. All right, so let's see what you came up with. 13 of you say yes, 9 of you say no, and 1 of you said there's not enough information. Does anyone want to come off of their mic and explain why they chose yes or no?
Because if you were to flip the one triangle to the side, like the same way that the first triangle is, then the 45 degrees would be in that third place where there's not a number. And if you add all the numbers, 63, 72, and 45 up, it gets 180.
Very nice. Yeah, they do add up to 180. Was that Preston talking? I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, good. I see I'm recognizing your voices, so I love that. Good job, Preston. You're absolutely correct. Okay, we know the 3 angles add up to 180. And so which theorem is it of our theorems that tells us these 2 triangles are congruent? Which sequence of letters? You guys can type it or someone can tell me. It's one of our theorems. Which one are we using once we realize that, you know, the missing angle on the first triangle is 45 and the missing angle on the second triangle is 72. Which of our 3 theorems is telling us that these 2 triangles are congruent? It's not. Oh, wait. Yes, angle, side definitely works. There's another one that works too. So Mason, you're absolutely correct. There's actually 2 that would work in this situation because by doing the math and figuring out that we have all 3 angles the same, we could say angle, side. Yes, Ashley, we are doing that to find out the 3 angles are the same measure on both triangles. That's true. We can also use angle, side, angle. Okay, so angle, side, and angle, side, angle. Those both work. All right, so what time does our class go to? 10? I think it does, right? Yeah, so I gotta hurry up. Let's come back here real quick. Okay, so the 4th one, angle, side, is basically just that, angle, side. 76 degrees, 42 degrees, 15, or 76 degrees, 42 degrees, 15. That's enough information to tell us that those 2 triangles are congruent. Are these 2 triangles congruent? We're going to go through these last slides a little quicker because we are really close to being out of time. So I'll give you 30 seconds to respond to this one. Are these two triangles congruent? Okay. 13 of you said no. So see, side, angle, angle, side. Well, those aren't even close to the same angles. 66, 49, 74, 63. We don't even have a pair of matching angles to even consider that the third angle would be the same. So these are not congruent. So no is the correct answer. Good job. Okay. What is the Pythagorean theorem? Put the answer in the box. We are out of time, so I'm just going to remind you that the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared is c squared. And the last theorem is HL, hypotenuse leg. Okay, and so this is the last one that you have to know. Are these two triangles congruent? Hypotenuse leg. Does this even have to do with hypotenuse and leg? Because I don't see a hypotenuse. This looks like we have 37 degrees, 85 degrees, 58 degrees, 37 degrees, 85 degrees, 58 degrees. So what we have here is angle, angle, angle. Is that a congruence theorem? Angle, angle, angle. I'm going to go back to this real quick. Angle, angle, angle. Remember this one? Okay. If they're the same three angles, you can make one triangle much larger, one triangle much smaller, which means they are not congruent. Okay. So the correct answer here is no, or actually not no. They could be. Couldn't they be? They could be the same size. They could not be the same size. It could go either way. So it's in fact C, not enough information on this one. So if you're given just the three angles, no other information, and you're asked if they're congruent, well, it's possible they're congruent. It's also possible they're not congruent. So we can't say definitively yes or no. We just say there's not enough information. All right. Circle how you are feeling, and you are done for today, okay? Take a break, and then you'll come back and you'll do the async lesson, which is, wrong class, here we go, which is the quizzes, and you'll take notes on today's lesson. Okay, I'll have the video up for you as soon as it's done processing. That may take 10 minutes. Okay, so I'll post it to our We Get a Glance as soon as I'm done. You guys are free to leave the meeting.